Hey guys, so I'm downstairs for once, so yeah, different background. I'm a little bit hoarse and nasally right now because on top of my allergies being absolutely crazy right about now and my asthma flaring up like whoa because of said allergies, I'm also fighting off a really bad cold. And after being cooped up in my room for a few days, just really not even feeling like getting the hell out of bed for the past couple days, I'm so just what's the word? Not cabin fever. Well, maybe it applies, but just stir crazy. That's what I'm thinking of. Just so stir crazy from being in there that I was like, I'm just gonna be downstairs and enjoy the cross breeze coming through the house and everything, and no one else is home, so yeah, taking advantage of that. So that's why a different background, and that's why I sound funny right now. And yeah, so I've got my blueberry pomegranate juice, sippy sippy, and I am going to make a video anyway. And I'm using the webcam instead of my iPod because it's more forgiving and I just feel like I look absolutely gross right now. And you don't have to be nice and say otherwise because I'm gross. And yes, that's a cold sore. Not gonna lie, get over it. But anyway, so if I start coughing or anything, that's why, because I'm sick. But anyway, so I thought it might be cool to well, I don't even know if I'm gonna make this a series or not, because I seem to have a bad track record with staying on top of things when I try to do a series of any sort. But we'll see how it goes. If it's a one taker and it only ends up being one thing, then it's one thing. And if it becomes a thing, then it becomes a thing. But um, you know how sometimes you have that moment where a memory you don't even realize that you remembered suddenly flashes back to you really vividly. And sometimes it's just like a blip of a moment, but it's really vivid. Other times you remember like a whole thing of something that happened really vividly that you totally kind of even, well, I mean, if somebody remind you of it, you remember, but you'd more or less forgotten about being a thing until something reminded you of it. I had one of those moments. I actually have them all the time, but I actually thought to just take it to YouTube for once this time because I'm bored. But yeah, I was watching a video. I'm also winding a ball of yarn, so I'm not as self conscious. But anyway, so I was watching a video that had the cover of what was it? Or not the cover, the box for Oregon Trail 2, like the original one, not the remake a few years later of it, but excuse me. But but of Oregon Trail 2, and just from seeing the box alone, I had like this brain flash back to like mid 90s in like when I first got a hold of that game. So I'm like, all right, you know what? It's story time. I feel like sharing this with all you guys just because. So, okay. I actually got a hold of Oregon Trail 2 a bit earlier than the rest of the world, and the version I played was slightly different than what ended up actually being released. I ended up getting a copy of that too, and that's how I know about the differences in versions. But my dad used to own a computer company, and well, actually, he had kind of interesting setup in his bedroom slash home office, but he had two computers side by side. One was just generic computer, and one was strictly gaming rig, awesome, badass machine that he had souped up to the nines and had all sorts of stuff that some of it was things you generally couldn't even get in America, but he was able to get because of connections, because of his company, and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. So another perk of that was that he often got early releases of software before they came out for the general public. And this wasn't even like just the general promo version. This was like the media kit educational system version that I guess since a lot of his clients were from schools because he'd sell like tons of computers to schools at a time and make a huge profit from it. They sent him a copy of the promo kit for Oregon Trail 2 that came with VHS movie that was like a documentary on the Oregon Trail. It came with a fairly hefty book with it. It came with all sorts of promo materials that I don't really remember because I didn't really look at them. And it had an advanced copy of the game, which was actually an early copy because some of the things that are in it ended up cut from the actual release. And the main differences I noticed really were just in sound effects and music. Like there's certain sound effects that weren't in this version that ended up in the actual release. And there was like other parts where they just had a different sound effect. It was nothing like massive. It's not like anybody's missing out on anything, but just I had this flashback to the night he brought that box home from work, and he made me, or he set it next to the computer because I was on the gaming computer, and he set it down and said after dinner he was gonna let me play it, and he wanted apparently my reaction, something to do with whatever the deal was. He had to have so and so many kids play it and give their reactions to it and blah blah blah. I don't know what exactly the deal was there, but because I'm the oldest and I was the most into computers, he decided to let me be the first one to play it. And obviously I was like, oh, play it now. Yeah, but I had to wait till after dinner. I remember just staring longingly at the box and being like, oh, I want to see what it is. I want to play it. And then after dinner, it rolls around. And God, it's so weird. I could almost tell you even like the outfit I had on. It's so vivid. Like just sitting down at the desk and him opening the box, handing me the disc and the book and saying we would watch the tape later and that this was going to be the first time that, excuse me, that he let me install a program on the computer. Because, I mean, yeah, it was a weird setup. Usually he didn't let me install things, he let me watch him install things, but this was the first time he was going to let me be a big girl and be the one to install it, which in retrospect is so not a big deal, but at the time it made me feel all grown up and everything, so I installed it, and then it also came with a ton of demos from the that company that put it out, Mech. Excuse me. It had, I actually spent a substantial amount of the evening playing the demos before I ever got to the actual game. Not gonna lie. It had, oh, what did it have? It had a demo for Amazon Trail, which, truth be told, I never ended up getting to play the actual full version of the game. I only ever played the demo, and all I remember of that demo is just like something about a kid in his bedroom, and I think he like travels through a dream or a storm or something to the Amazon rainforest, and you're in a boat and you're spearfishing and you're in the jungle, and something about finding animals. I don't know. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but the spearfishing part is like the main part that sticks out in my memory about that one. Excuse me. A little snotty. But there was that one. There was a demo for, what was it called? I believe it was Troggle Trouble, I want to say. It was like a spin-off of all like the math munchers and number munchers and word munchers and this munchers, that muncher, whatever the fuck games they are. Sorry, but it was a spin-off of those games where basically I feel like the premise was something like you played a dog and you had to like find all his dog biscuits and not get eaten by troggles. I feel like, and I think his name was Doggle, was it? I don't even know. It's like, that part, I remember making the dog go around the screen eating the biscuits. That's about all I remember of it specifically. So there was that, there was a demo for a storybook maker thing, which I thought was really fucking lame. But then again, I was also being rather condescending because I was Little Miss Hipster without knowing what a hipster was over here. owning an electric typewriter and was writing stories, even though I had computers at my disposal. Oh no, I wanted to use the fucking typewriter, right? And would write stories that would be like almost a whole ream of paper long. They were really retarded stories, but that's beside the point. I just remember being really unimpressed and feeling like this program was condescending to people who actually wrote like legit stories as far as I was concerned. Because it would only let you write like I think 10 pages, and it had a really big font size, so you couldn't fit much on those pages. And you could make little illustrations in the program, but they were really stupid, like click and drag things with clip art, essentially. I just really remember being so unimpressed with it, and I bitched about that so bad. I was like, forget about reviewing the game. You should tell him that thing's horrible, and blah, blah, blah. And I went off on this tirade of tirades, and oh my gosh. Even in retrospect now, as an adult looking back on it, I have no idea how my dad stood there with a straight face and didn't just like die laughing listening to me, like as if I knew the literary world better than anyone, right? But so there was that. There was a demo for, oh, what else? I know there was Dell Down Under. Oh my gosh. I never got to play the full version of that either, but I'd always wanted to after I got to play the demo, because basically, like, the premise of that one I do remember, because I've played several spin-offs since then that work on the same premise, and it's still fun. But, basically you start out with some some breed of fish, and you get to pick what kind of fish you want to be, and you start out as a little one. You have to go around and eat other fishes that are smaller than you, and you have to read up on the breed of fish that you have and see what they actually eat, and eat those things, and as you do, you'll grow bigger, and as you grow bigger, you can eat bigger fishes, and with that, there is less chance of being eaten by bigger fishes, and it's basically teaching kids the food chain, essentially. So there was that. There was demos for, I don't know, a fuck ton of things. I feel like there was about a dozen of them, but those are the ones that stand out in my mind. Oh, Tesselmania. It was like a tessellation thing. Tessellations are basically, a repeating pattern that interlocks into itself and repeats over and over and over infinitely, I guess. And, you got to design your own on there, and it was kind of cool. Sort of like MC Escher stuff. I remember being ahead of the game in school when I actually knew what a tessellation was when we got to learn about those, so yay me. But, so there was that. I did get the full version of that because I was the artsy kid, but, so there was that. I feel like there may have even been a demo for Maya Quest in there, which I did own that game. Never beat that game, which really pisses me off, but it also scared the crap out of me that the premise of that game was sort of like the whole 2012 thing, Mayans, end of the world, ooh, doomsday thing, and yeah, this game totally played on that and capitalized on it, and except in their version of it, if you didn't save the world in, I think it was like 48 hours, 72 hours, something like that, apparently an asteroid would hit the Earth and everybody dies. Game over. Gee, I don't know why I was terrified when December 21st, 2012 came around in real life and was convinced that this was actually going to happen. Yeah, I was one of those people. But, moving right along. Yeah. But my dad bought the full version of that game because he's actually been to the Mayan ruins and everything. So for him, it was like a nostalgia trip. But anyway. So I spent so long playing the freaking demos that night that it wasn't until like 9 or 10 p.m. that I actually got around to playing the real game of Oregon Trail itself, because I dicked around so long on the demos. And I thought, you watch, I'm just gonna get started on this, Dad's gonna send me to bed because it's like 10 o'clock, even though it was summer vacation and it really didn't matter. And much to my surprise, this was like the first time ever that he just like let me stay up half the night to play a computer game. I was so proud of myself. Yeah, I mean, he stayed right there to like supervise and everything, but beside the point. I mean, the setup of that room was his bed was like about like arm's reach away from the computer. So I mean, if he wanted to, he'd pretty much reach over and turn the computer off if he really wanted to. But yeah, I think he ended up like just going to bed before I finished playing for the night. Didn't end up winning that night anyhow, but oh my gosh, I remember just the opening screen and the flourishing music and being so excited to play it, even though I had no idea what the hell the Oregon Trail even was yet, because we hadn't studied it in school yet or anything. So this was totally new, uncharted territory for me, which is kind of ironic given what the Oregon Trail is all about. But, yeah, that. So I went into it and didn't really know how to play because I'd never played like the original Oregon Trail prior to that because I guess my school was lame and didn't have us play that in computer lab until like 6th or 7th grade, which is stupid because most kids play that when they're like hella younger. But anyway, so I went into it not really knowing what sort of things to do to set up the wagon train or what a wagon train even was. So like every 2 seconds I was stopping to ask my dad, what's this mean? What's that mean? And da 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 da, on every little thing. And he was having to explain, but this was one area of history he actually knows a ton about because he has traveled across the entire country by car and has seen a lot of these landmarks and everything that are involved in the Oregon Trail firsthand. So this is like right up his alley, and he was thrilled to be able to answer these questions for someone who hadn't ever heard about them before. But yeah, so I remember going into it and setting up the wagon train or the trail party, whatever it was, where you have to put in the members of your wagon train or of your party, whichever it may be, and you can choose how many people traveled with you. So in addition to my own name, which I quickly found out was a mistake putting in your own name because 9 times out of 10, your character will be the one to like croak off if you do that. But yeah, so in addition to my own name, I went with like my default thing of just naming the characters after the Beatles, because why the fuck not, right? Never mind that some of them were girls, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. But in this game it honestly doesn't. But so I did that and I set some random ass ages and I went into it and was just awestruck by the fact that it was one of the first games I'd ever seen that integrated sort of, well, not really true 3D, but sort of like interactive movies that look like they're moving, or characters that are talking as well as the actual speaking voice talking to you and it looking realistic. This was, I think, only the second game I had ever seen at that point that worked on that premise. The first one I had ever seen was Return to Zork, which I am still to this day traumatized by that fucking game. I'm like, I've got chills right now just remembering it. Nope. But anyway, yeah, let's get off that topic. I don't like that game. But anyway, so I'm going around, I'm talking to all the villagers or whatever you want to call them. Not pilgrims, oh my god, I'm stupid. Not immigrants, I can't think of the word. Yay for being high on Dayquil. But, you know what I mean, the people in the town. So I'm going around talking to them, I'm tripping out, and oh my gosh, it's like actually talking to real life people, and you get to choose the things that you say to them, and they say things back to you, and oh my god, and I thought it was like the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. Now that's like a really basic thing, and those graphics, looking at them now, are not anything to, like, be desired, but for the times, for the early mid-90s, it was pretty good. So I was all tripped out, And then it came time to buy things, and I didn't know what to buy, and I just went all willy-nilly about it. Being a little kid, I bought the things that appealed to me, like musical instruments and candy and things that just looked fun. So I wasted all my money on those, didn't stop to think that there's more than one store. I blew all the cash in the first store. I had to start the game over because I fucked up. So I started over, and my dad helped me a little this time because, yeah, we could have been there all night just playing in the stores otherwise. But, yeah, so he got me set up with some basic stuff and got me started on the actual trail part of the game. And I was all tripped out watching the little videos down in the corner of the actual progression along the trail and seeing the videos and pictures of the actual landmarks themselves, and just thought this was the coolest thing. And to this day, I still do kind of have a fascination with the Oregon Trail because of this game. So I guess they succeeded in their efforts there, big time. I remember that I just did not get very far the first time around with it, because I think everybody died really fast. Somebody drowned in the first big lake. Yeah, I suck. So there was that, and then I found out that in the guidebook on the game, there is an encyclopedia of all the Oregon Trail era diseases and how you're supposed to treat them in the game and blah, 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 blah. And that, oh my gosh, I think I spent another at least couple hours that night just perusing through there and reading all of them and taking this all in and thinking, so basically I should spend most of my money on all the medicines and the wound dressings, this and that, and I should probably start out as a doctor and then nobody will die, right? Yeah, except that's not how this game works. You could be all loaded up on that shit and you'll still have a little to no advantage, so for what it's worth. There's that. But it fascinated me because that field always kind of interested me anyway. I used to think I wanted to be a doctor, so yeah. I went back and reread that section over and over and over because I thought I'm eventually gonna learn to beat every part of the game that involves that stuff, and yeah, no, I think I got to where I could make people not die from cholera, and that was about it. Stock up on the Epsom salts, apparently. I don't know what you do with such things, but apparently you use Epsom salts when cholera is involved in Oregon Trail 2. It doesn't really tell you what you're doing with them. Polly, do you see something? Are you just sitting there? Sorry, my dog's being weird. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. And then there would be interesting sort of just accidents along the trail. I mean, y'all know about the rattlesnake bites and stuff, but then one of the people will randomly get accidentally shot, and I'm like, how do you get accidentally shot on the Oregon Trail? I mean, are you sure it's an accident at that point, really? And then I felt really bad because remember I named him after the Beatles? It was John that got shot, and I felt like an asshole, and I started the game over because I was so upset. And yeah, this could be part of why I did not beat the game in the first night, because I kept getting upset over things and starting it over because I'm too emotional for this shit. But yeah. So there's things like that, and then randomly someone gets mauled by a bear, and I'm like, what the fuck? Well, I didn't say that at that age, but essentially I kinda did, but without that wording. But I remember being like, that I'm doing everything right, and then a bear came along and it mauled so-and-so, yeah. And then there's all the times that somebody almost drowns, just out of fucking nowhere. You're not even, trying to cross a river, just, oh, you're in the middle of the trail and blah, blah, blah. Somebody's drowning in it. But there's no water. What are you drowning in? What are you drowning in? Holly, stop. Stop. There's a dog barking next door, so she feels the need to bark back at it. She's been doing this on and off all day. Anyway, are you done yet? Whatever, I'll try to ignore. Anyway, So there was like all these things. I remember getting as far as, where did I get to on that first night? I feel like I made it to almost the Rocky Mountains, but not quite. I mean, I didn't know what the landmarks were gonna be yet, since I didn't play it before. This was like the first time going through it. So, I mean, I'm just trying to remember back from now how far it was. I think it was before the Rocky Mountains, so it wasn't that successful of a first playthrough, but yeah, I just remember being all tripped out over this, and if I had been allowed to, I probably would have stayed up all night playing and replaying this game through. But then my mom came in, she made me go to bed, so I had to stop. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I think bright and early the next day I was already asking again if I could play it again. And spent a good portion of that day just exploring the hunting option because I thought it was cool. So there was that. I remember getting all tripped out because there was like a thunderstorm in real life going on. I shouldn't have even been on the computer. I don't know why I was, but I was. And then the random event in the game happens of a thunderstorm, and I got all tripped out over that. And then there was a tornado, and I was like, oh shit, is there gonna be a tornado here? Which obviously there wasn't, but we live in California. Those don't really happen here. If they do, they're like so little that they're not real tornadoes, but yeah. So anyway, yeah, just generally the first night, just seeing that picture of the box itself, even though it's not quite identical to the one that I got, although, like I said, we did end up buying the game that came out later on anyway, even though it was essentially the same thing. There's only like a few very minor differences with it, but yeah, it was a very, very similar box too, because I think we may even still have both of them somewhere. I think they're in my dad's garage. But anyway, if I can find them both at the same time, I'll put them on here just because it's kind of cool seeing the differences. But anyway, yeah, especially because I don't know how many of those were mailed out to people. I don't know if that was like a really rare kit or something or not. If it's not, I don't want to make like a big deal out of it if it wasn't. But yeah. Anyway, but yeah, just from seeing the picture of the box, I suddenly had all of this flood back to me, and I was like, I didn't even realize I still remembered the first time I ever played Oregon Trail 2, but apparently I do. And it's still really vividly burnt into my brain, so I was like, that was kind of cool. And yeah, that's about all I have to say about that, so. Like I said, maybe I'll make more of these with more random crap that I remember. Maybe not, I don't know. We'll see.